You get a knock at the door. Before you know it, an officer is saying they have reason to take your guns. You're confused, maybe angry, but more than anything, you don't know what you're legally allowed to say or do in that moment. Hi, I'm attorney J. Scott Smith, a criminal defense attorney here in North Carolina. And I've seen just how fast these situations escalate when gun owners don't know their rights. So in this video, I'm going to show you exactly when the police can and can't legally take your firearms and what you need to do to protect yourself if that day ever comes. So the first thing you need to know is under what circumstances can North Carolina police actually take your guns? There are a few main situations when this happens. The first is during an arrest, especially if it's related to violence, threats, or even just an accusation of domestic violence. Second, police may seize your firearm if you're subject to a domestic violence protective order, sometimes called a DVPO or a 50B. But here's what's important. The police can't just take your gun because they feel like it or because they don't like the look of you. In North Carolina, there are clear rules. Most of the time, they need a court order, a warrant, or a specific reason under the law. Knowing what those reasons are is the first step to stopping police from taking your guns. Don't give cops permission to search without a warrant. Here's one of the biggest ways people lose their guns without even realizing it. They let the police search their car, their home, or their belongings, not realizing they don't have to say yes. If a police officer comes to your door and asks, "Mind if I come in and look around?" Or you get pulled over and they ask, "Do you have any weapons in the car? Can I take a look?" You absolutely have the right to say no. Unless the officer has a warrant, or unless there's a real emergency or obvious crime happening, they need your consent to search. I've seen cases where someone trying to be friendly or cooperative tells an officer, "Sure, go ahead." The next thing you know, the officer finds a handgun in the glove box and suddenly you're dealing with a whole new situation, possibly gun seizure, especially if you're in the middle of an argument at home. So be polite but firm. "I don't consent to any searches." That's it. You don't need to argue or explain. Just clearly say you do not give permission. Protect yourself with proper permits. You need to have your paperwork in order. That means making sure you have a valid concealed carry permit if you're carrying a concealed handgun in public. For handguns and long guns like rifles, shotguns, and other things like that, you don't need a purchase permit. A huge number of gun seizures happen simply because someone didn't renew their permit on time or didn't realize their permit was only good for 5 years. If you get pulled over and don't have a current permit with you when you're carrying a concealed handgun, the police can not only take your firearm, but you can also be charged with a crime. I had a client once, let's call him Mike, who kept his concealed carry permit in a drawer at home and forgot it needed to be renewed. He was completely unaware it expired. He got stopped for a busted taillight, and when he let the officer know about his pistol in the glove box, which you should always do if you're carrying, the officer checked the paperwork and ended up seizing the gun. Mike had to go through a long, stressful process to get it back, and he faced charges that could have been avoided. The lesson: check your permits every year, put a reminder in your phone, keep your paperwork up to date, and always have your permit with you if you're carrying. If there's a domestic dispute, know the 50B rule. This one is crucial. In North Carolina, if someone, a spouse, an ex, or a partner gets a domestic violence protective order against you, the law is clear. You have to give up all firearms to the sheriff, at least until the court sorts it out. It doesn't matter whether the accusation is true or not, or if you've never hurt anyone. The minute a judge signs a temporary 50B, you're legally required to turn in your guns. The sheriff's office may come to your house and ask you to hand them over. If you refuse, you can be arrested. If you try to hide your firearms, you're looking at even more serious charges. What can you do to stop this before it happens? Try your best to keep disputes from turning into legal battles. If you're served with a 50B, take it very seriously. Show up for your court date. Get a lawyer who knows North Carolina law. Judges can sometimes limit or lift parts of protective orders if there's no real evidence of danger, but you need someone in your corner making that case. If you do end up having to turn over your guns, don't try to be clever or hide them. It's simply not worth it. Instead, focus on fighting the order in court. If the judge decides it's not needed, you can get your guns back. But violating a 50B can mean losing your right to own any firearm for years or even life. Avoid confrontations and anger around your guns. This is where a lot of folks get tripped up. Even if you're completely within your rights to own and carry a firearm, if you lose your temper or make threats during an argument, especially with a spouse, a roommate, a neighbor, or even a stranger, it can give police a reason to step in. I've represented people who got into shouting matches at home, or who made an offhand comment like, "You'll be sorry if you try that again." Even if you didn't mean anything by it, these words can be twisted into threats. If someone calls 911 and tells police you're armed and angry, it's only a matter of time before they show up and want your guns. So what's the smartest thing you can do? If you feel an argument getting out of hand, step away. Put your firearms somewhere safe and walk away. Never, ever wave a gun around during a fight, even if you think you're just trying to make a point, and never make threats, even as a joke. Remember, the police have to take these calls seriously. Don't give them any reason to think you're a danger. What to do if police take your guns away. Even if you follow every rule, sometimes the police will take your guns. Maybe there's a mistake on your record, confusion about your paperwork, or someone files a false report. Don't panic. Here's what you do. First, get a receipt or documentation of what was taken. The law says the police must give you a record. Second, call a lawyer who knows North Carolina gun laws. You usually have the right to a hearing to get your firearms back, especially if no charges are filed or you're found not guilty. Don't try to confront the officers or demand your guns back on the spot. That only makes things worse. Instead, be calm, be polite, and start the legal process to get your property returned. I've helped many clients get their guns back, but you have to use the system the right way. Your next step to protect your rights. Today you learned exactly how to stop North Carolina cops from taking your guns. From understanding the law to never consenting to searches, keeping your permits up to date, dealing with 50B orders, avoiding angry confrontations, and knowing what to do if the worst happens. But your rights don't stop here. This next video is absolutely crucial. 5 tips whenever cops pull you over. Knowing these tips can make all the difference between a simple traffic stop and a life-changing legal battle. Don't miss it. Your future and your freedom could depend on the knowledge. I'll see you over there. And remember, arrested doesn't mean guilty.